Hi everyone. So we now move on to the next session on the topic of value of taxable supply of goods or services or both. So this would be the last session on this particular topic, and there are a few important things which are still pending to be understood on this particular issue of value of taxable supply of goods or services or both. Now let's try to understand. I think we already have covered about what consideration is all about and whether deposit becomes a consideration and what exactly is consideration and when deposit can also be treated as a consideration. All these three few issues about the meaning of consideration and the various situations where consideration need to be or the deposit need to be treated as consideration have already been seen in the earlier session. Now the most important point that we need to talk about is the meaning of the word related person. If you go back to the original transaction value aspect that we have discussed earlier, if you go back to the basic issue which we have seen as the transaction value as the basis for valuation. See, we are now talking about valuation, and initially we have understood that it is the transaction value that is to be treated as value for the purpose of GST. Now, while understanding the transaction value, we have seen two very important things. One is, number one, the supplier and the recipient should not be related, and second, the price should be the sole consideration. So these are the two things which we have seen at the time of understanding what is a transaction value for the basis of valuation. The first one is price has to be the sole consideration, okay, and the supplier and the recipients should not be related to each other, okay. Now when I say the supplier and the recipient should not be related to each other, then the question of how do you define whether somebody is related to each other or not, this question arises. So what the Act has done is it has clearly defined the word related person in terms of explanation A to section 15 of the CGST Act. Okay, now let's see what a related person means under the CGST. Now, if at all any relationship between two individuals involved in a transaction are hit by any of the situations that make them a related person, then the question of determination of evaluation will take a totally different path altogether. Okay, so we need to understand the meaning of the word related person as it is explained in section 15 of the CGST Act. So it is extremely important for you to understand what related person means. So in the next 10-15 minutes we are going to see as to what are the different circumstances where we say that two persons are related to each other. Okay, so we will just read and then try to understand each variety of what a related person really means. Okay, now section 15 of CGST Act explanation A states that for the purposes of CGST Act, a person shall be deemed to be related persons. See, two persons shall be deemed to be related persons. Okay, the deeming this is a deeming provision. Okay, so they shall be deemed to be related persons if and only if such persons are officers or directors of one another's business. So the first point here is such persons are officers or directors of one another's business. Now let's say there are two persons A and B. Now A is a director in the company of B, and B in turn is a director in the company of A. If this is the situation, if they are mutually directors in their companies, then they become related persons, and any transactions happening between these two has to be looked upon in a different manner. It doesn't attract a transaction value concept at all. Okay, so in case mutual directorship or mutual possession holding is there between the companies, then in such a case we call them as related persons. Then such persons, number two, second one, such persons are legally recognized partners in business. Supposing, let's say, the issue in question or the firm in question is a partnership firm. If it is a partnership firm, and if both the persons who are transacting between them are partners of the particular firm, then also they become related persons. Okay, such persons are employer and employee. If at all an employer has employed a particular individual, and with this individual a transaction is happening, if at all then there is an employer-employee relationship between the two persons who are transacting with each other, then also they are stated to be related persons. if such persons are employer and employee. See, any transaction happening between employer and employee also, the normal rules of valuation does not apply. You will have to go for valuation rules in a different manner. Since they are related persons, the question of transaction value does not arise. Okay. Next, a person directly or indirectly owns, controls or holds 25% or more of the outstanding voting stock or shares or both of them. Now, whenever all of you very well know, in respect of corporate enterprises, it's common that you have large number of shareholders, and essentially in respect of private limited companies particularly, it's a closely held company where most of the shares are owned by the family members or probably with a close set of friends and relatives. Okay, you also know the maximum number, etc. It's a Companies Act subject altogether. Now, what happens in such a case, if at all any person is directly or indirectly having more than 25% of the shares of that particular company, and if the company is dealing with that person, then he also becomes a related person, or both the company and the person who is holding 25% who is dealing with the company are treated to be related persons. So again, the valuation rules will be totally different for them. The next one is, one of them directly or indirectly controls the other. See, this is one very important aspect which covers almost, which is very difficult to explain. I mean, this is one thing which is very wide in its scope. It clearly says one of them directly or indirectly controlling the other. It can be by whatever means. If there is one person who is controlling the other person and the transactions are happening between these two, then also the question of transaction value application does not arise and they become related persons. Okay, then together they directly or indirectly control a third person. Now understand, there are A and B who are controlling C now. A and B together are controlling C. Now, suppose C enters into a transaction with either A or B, he becomes a related person. He becomes a related person because indirectly these two persons together are exercising some amount of influence or control on the C. So, even in such a case, when both A and B directly or indirectly influence or control person C, they all are stated to be related persons. Okay, then together they directly or indirectly control a third person. Okay, both of them directly or indirectly control a third person. Now the other way around also is true. Now what did we see? A and B together are controlling C. Now by any means, if C is directly or indirectly controlling A and B, or either of them or both of them, if C is controlling either A or B, then in that case any transaction happening between these two also is stated to be a transaction happening within the related persons. Then they are members of the same family. Suppose transactions are happening between members of the same family. Now the next question is, what is a family? Again, that definition also we are going to see in a very short while from now. So what happens if the transactions are happening between the members of the same family, then also it comes within the definition of the explanation of section 15 as related person. Okay. Now throughout my discussion, if you have observed, I have several times used the word person, person and person. Now the next question is, what person includes? What does the word person include? Does it include only an individual, or does it include every type of entity which is part of the transaction? So let's try to understand what the word person means. Now explanation B of section 15 gives you the term person also includes legal persons. See, it clearly says even the artificial juridical persons are also included as within the definition of person. And so all of you probably are also the corporate tax students, where you already must have seen how the term person is defined even under the Income Tax Act also. The term person, section 2 subsection 7 of the IT Act defines who a person is, and all different type you have seen there. It is an individual, okay, a partnership firm, a registered entity, a company under the Companies Act, an artificial juridical person, an association of individuals, or a body of persons. Okay, all this the body of persons. So the word person also is defined under the Income Tax Act, and probably the explanation of the person includes juridical person or the legal persons here also means all these different varieties are also covered for the purpose of GST law. So explanation C, persons who are associated in business of one another, in that one is the sole agent or the sole distributor or the sole concessionaire, however so described, of the other, shall be deemed to be related. So even when there is an agency relationship happening between the vendor and the intermediary who is trying to promote the goods, in that case also they become related persons. I shall read it again. Let's try to understand. Persons who are associated in the business of one another, in the business of one another, in that one is the sole agent or sole distributor or sole concessionaire, howsoever described. See, there are three important words used here, and respect of all these three, if there is a relationship of that sort, then they become related persons. What is the first one? If he becomes a sole agent. If he becomes a sole agent, then if he is a sole distributor, the first one is agent, the second is a distributor, the third one is a sole concessionaire. So whatever could be the description, either you can describe him as an agent, or you can describe him as a distributor or a concessionaire. In all the three cases, okay, they shall be deemed to be related. Okay, then also they become related persons. Now a word or two on where this definition has been taken from is given here. So we also will try to understand that. Okay, the definition has been practically copied from Rule 2 of Customs Valuation Determination of Value of Imported Rules 2007. So under Customs Act, earlier this particular related persons has already been defined at that, where exactly in Rule 2 of Customs Valuation Determination of Value of Imported Goods. So we are also going to have separate sessions on the entire Customs Act, which is part of your syllabus. So when we study customs, we will also again have a repetition of all this. So the related person definition or the explanations which have been given here are absolutely taken from Rule 2.2 of the Customs Valuation or the Determination of Value of Imported Good Rules 2007. So if you go there and see the term related person also, it is absolutely defined in the same manner. Okay, so this is what is all about related persons. So how many have seen now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So there are 8 different situations that we have seen now, under which if any of these situations exist, then the parties are stated to be related parties, or they fall within the ambit of the meaning of related persons. Okay, so now we move on further and try to understand what's the meaning of a family for the purpose of GST law. So I shall read the definition, then we look at explanation on that. Family means 1. The spouse and children of the person. 2. The parents, grandparents, brothers and sisters of the person, if they are wholly and mainly dependent on the said person. This is as per section 2 subsection 49 of the CGST Act. Okay, so what all it includes? It includes spouse and children of the person. Suppose, let's say there is Mr. X. If you are talking about Mr. X, let's take an example. If we are talking about a Mr. X in terms of how to define a family, then we can say the family for Mr. X will constitute himself, Mr. X himself, his wife and children. Then the parents, grandparents, brothers and sisters of the person also of Mr. X also would be included within the ambit of family if they are wholly and mainly dependent on Mr. X. So this is how the term family is defined under section 2 clause 49 of the CGST Act. The definition looks to be very practical, simple and viable. Alright, so this is what these two terms are extremely important for you from the purpose of understanding, and in the examination there are quite a lot of chances that any of these situation may be visualized and a problem may be posed where you need to understand. The question may be posed about whether the valuation rules will become applicable, or you are going to apply the standard transaction value for the transaction between these people. So whenever any such situation is given in the exam, or if any problem is given where the relationship between the buyer and the seller are explained, you just have to understand what type of relationship is there, and if it falls within the ambit of what we have seen just now, then they become related persons, and the standard concept of transaction value will not be applicable there, and we need to go for application of valuation rules. So the next session would definitely be on what these valuation rules are. Section rule 27 to 35 of the CGST valuation rules are what we are going to see in the subsequent session now. So now the concept of related persons and family is extremely important. You just have to clearly understand all these different varieties or the situations where two individuals become related to each other, and also the meaning of family. Depending upon the situation, you need to apply either a transaction value in the normal process, or you need to go for the valuation rules in the given circumstances. Is that clear? Okay. So we move on to the last aspect and wind up the session now. Now we continue to understand the term related persons and the impact on the transaction. Now, what is the whole purpose? What is the whole purpose of trying to define the term related person in such a big manner, and trying to understanding so many very different situations? The whole idea is, again, if we can look at the logic behind that, is the protection of revenue. See, under no circumstances the government or the act will allow any individuals or any group of individuals to transact between themselves in such a manner that the valuation is suppressed and the corresponding revenue to the government is reduced. So this is what is guarded upon. The term related person and also the family is mainly defined to ensure that there are no such transactions happening where the value suppression happens and there is loss of revenue to the government. Now, one very interesting point also we need to understand in respect of related persons also. Now, assume the transaction has happened between related persons. You have studied what the term related persons is, and now the situation that has been given to you very clearly establishes that the transactions are between two related persons. In such a scenario also, the proviso to Rule 28 of CGST and SGST rules say there is a provision, or the proviso it is normally called, Rule 28 of CGST and SGST. You know what it says? It's very interesting and very important for us to understand that even if the transactions are happening between related persons, it is still acceptable under the Act, provided okay, the recipient is able to take complete input tax credit for the same. So again, you need to understand the logic behind this particular provision. Now, if at all whatever GST has been paid, if I am eligible for the entire input tax credit of the GST that I am paying to the supplier, the question of any tax incidence on me does not arise until I sell and pay a small amount of extra tax on the value addition. So in the first instance, when I buy goods and pay GST on that, the question of me having any pinch of GST does not arise, because I am totally as a recipient, I am totally entitled to complete input tax credit. So when I pay GST and I am eligible for the entire amount of GST as an input tax credit for me, the pinch of GST is not there at all. So the question of suppression of value, or question of anybody trying to influence each other's mind in terms of trying to reduce the tax, does not arise, because the incidence of tax is not there at all on you, since you are totally eligible for input tax credit. So this proviso to Rule 28 of CGST and SGST is very important. Again, this can be a part of your question and examination, where they may bring in a few instances of this sort and then try to test your knowledge whether you will still treat them as a related person or not. Please understand, if the recipient of goods is entitled to 100% input tax credit, which technically we hereafter call it as ITC, in such a case, even if the transactions are between related persons, then also the normal valuation rules will, in the normal course, the valuation has to be done, and the question of application of valuation rules does not arise. And even if it's a case of related persons, the normal provisions will apply. Why? I already have explained to you now. Because there is the intention of suppression. See, please understand one thing. When we talk of value, I have already made this very clear in the very first session, that GST is something, a tax rate that is applied on the value of transaction. And what the value is, it's a transaction value, is also what we have seen. Now, higher the value of transaction, higher the tax going to the government, because essentially, again I repeat, GST as a percentage of tax is applied on the value. So higher the value, higher the tax payable to the government. Lower the value, lower will be the tax payable to the government. Is that clear? So what is extremely important is, in case the recipient is entitled for 100% input tax credit, then even if the transactions are between related persons, the valuation of the taxable or determination of the value of taxable supply of goods or services, or both, will be done in the normal course. The question of application of valuation rules does not arise. Is that clear? So we move on to another important point now. Now, in case we are unable to do the valuation in the normal course, what is value of taxable supply of goods and services? We already have seen. In all the cases, it is mostly the transaction value. Now, if transaction value can be determined, and in case they are related persons also, what need to be done we have seen. Now, why do we need valuation rules at all? So we just need to understand this basic question. Now, why valuation rules are given? Why valuation rules are given in the Act? Why there is a provision for valuation rules? So first we need to address this issue, then probably in the subsequent session we understand what these valuation rules are. Now, I will just read out the most important aspect, then explain to you further. If valuation is not possible on the basis of provisions of transaction value under section 15, please understand, what is value? Value is nothing but transaction value. Now, in case for one reason or the other, you are unable to establish the transaction value, under section 15, then what happens? The valuation has to be done on the basis of valuation rules contained in CGST valuation rules. So when do you think valuation rules will become applicable, or in the first instance, why valuation rules are brought into force at all? That's only and only because there may be very many situations where you will not be able to establish the transaction value, or even if you have to establish transaction value, if the transactions happen to be between related persons, then the transaction prima facie transaction value will not be taken for the purpose of charging GST, and you will have to resort to the valuation rules. And as per the rules given in the valuation rules of CGST, we need to establish the value, and then the tax has to be collected on that. Is that clear? So when the application of valuation rules will become important? Only and only when you cannot establish the value of a transaction on the basis of transaction value under section 15. In case you are not able to determine the value for this reason, or for any reason for that matter, in case you have any problem in arriving at the valuation of a particular transaction, if you are not able to establish a value of a taxable supply of either goods or service, to be technically correct, you always use the word taxable supply. Why I say taxable supply? Because if it is exempt, the question does not arise. It's again a matter of common sense. So always try to use the words appropriately, so that you get used to talking about them properly. So what do I say? In respect of value of taxable supply of goods or services, or both, in case you are not able to ascertain the transaction value under section 15 of the CGST Act, then you must resort to the valuation rules, apply the rules of valuation, then determine the transaction value, and on that value please apply the appropriate rate of tax, and then discharge your tax liability. Is that clear? So in the next session, let's look at what these valuation rules are, and with that we come to a close on the topic of valuation of taxable supply of goods and services of both. Okay, thank you.